Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow goats, to the Command Valley podcast. I am your host, Griff. I am here today to actually talk about one of my favorite decks right now, Atemsis All-Seeing. And we're just going to go through and do a deck tech that I have made on this and go through this and just have a lot of fun doing so. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. For Atemsis, I'll go ahead and read her first and I'll go through my 4 steps for her. So Atemsis All-Seeing is 3 blue for a legendary creature Sphinx, a 4/5 flying, activated ability, 2 and a blue, tap, draw 2 cards and discard a card. And then whenever Atemsis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. Now, obviously, this was just smack dab my type of card. A win condition on itself, and oh boy, it's fun to do. So let's go ahead and just go through the 4 steps of Atemsis, and I'll just name them all 4 and then we'll go through them one at a time. So the first one with Atemsis is drawing lots of cards. We want to be drawing a massive amount of cards with Atemsis, obviously filling our hand with different converted mana costs, having answers to things that might deter our plan, and then just getting value of our card draw. The second step is value, and what I mean by value is just cards that are giving you value for casting your instants and sorceries to draw your cards. The third step to this deck is hunker down, and I'll get into more details about what that means, but step 4 is win the game with Atemsis. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. So the first thing that we want to do with Atemsis is play a bunch of card draw spells. Now, I've included in the card draw spells category cards that give you no maximum hand size. So obviously cards like Spellbook are key pieces in this deck because you don't want to be limited to 7 cards most of the time. You really want to be getting more than that. So cards that increase your maximum hand size or don't limit your hand size, you really want to play those. So yeah, Thought Vessel and Spellbook, those are the 2 ones that I've included in here as artifacts that can give you that ability. So we really want to be playing a lot of small blue card draw spells. Since this deck is mono blue, we've got all the assortments of them. So we want to play your things like Brainstorms and Portent, and we want to play Facts or Fiction. Just really filtering through our cards, finding the pieces that we want to keep, and if there's something's not relevant, we can pitch it away if we don't have a maximum hand size. So those are the smaller ones. The bigger ones that I've included in this deck are cards like Pull From Tomorrow. Pull From Tomorrow is blue X. Target player draws X cards, and then you discard a card. So at any time you can play that, except for 3, because you don't want to... Well, you could discard another card in your hand, but usually you want to play this on turn 6 or 7, where you can draw 4 or 5 cards and discard 1. A card from War of the Spark called Finale of Revelation, which is blue X to draw X cards. That is a sorcery, and if X is 10 or more, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw X cards, untap up to 5 lands, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Exile Finale of Revelation. So that's another way of getting your no maximum hand size, which is super great on this card that wants to draw cards. The important thing to remember about Finale of Revelation is that it's going to exile itself no matter how many cards you draw. I have made this mistake with this card, so just remember that if you play Finale of Revelation to just draw 1 card, you're going to have to exile it, and you will not get it back. So other card draw engines that I like to put in here are cards like Kami of the Crescent Moon, which just gives everybody an extra card per turn, Howling Mine, and Dictate of Krufix. So those are just giving everybody extra cards, but the thing is, you're not very upset about that because you have answers and you are hunkering down. So you don't really worry about it because you're going to be the one who's getting most advantage out of this. As far as bigger draw spells, I've included things like Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Flow of Ideas, which lets you draw a card for each island you control, and some Sphinxes like Sphinx of Uthun, Sphinx Ambassador, and Wind Reader Sphinx, just to get some extra card draw off of that. Now, the important thing to remember about this is that you may think that these are very high casting costs for card draw spells, but the thing is that we want there to be a large variety of casting costs because that's important for Atemsis' win condition. So some more enchantments that I've included in here that draw cards are things like Mystic Remora, I found with Mystic Remora that you want to play Mystic Remora about turn 4 or 5 when people are playing multiple spells per turn. I found that when you play it on turn 1, you are very limited if you want to play anything else because there's that upkeep cost. However, even if you do that, it's not the worst feeling. And then the last part of card draw I will include are Windfall type effects. So obviously Windfall, Echo of Eons to just be able to refill your hand if you're running out and you don't have enough card draw to keep you going. So the second step to this deck is value. And yeah, when I say value, this is just cards that you're getting value off of by playing all these instants and sorceries that are letting you draw cards. So cards that I've included in this are cards like Primal Amulet, which discount your instants and sorceries, and then you can flip it to get a land that can copy your instants and sorceries. I've included things like Jace's Sanctum, which also discount your instants and sorceries. Brawl, that is going to discount all instants and sorceries and gives you some value off the counter spells that you will be playing in this deck. Metallurgic Summonings I have included in here. Normally, Metallurgic Summonings wouldn't be necessarily great in a mono blue deck, but the important thing about Metallurgic Summonings is actually the last phrase on it, where you can pay 3 blue, exile Metallurgic Summonings, and return all instants and sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only if you control 6 or more artifacts, which is not hard with Metallurgic Summonings. You usually get quite a bit from those, and you have some other artifacts laying around. The reason why that is so good is because if you have a way to get Atemsis out, and you do not have cards in your hand to be able to fuel the win condition, you can just exile Metallurgic Summonings and bring all those instants and sorcery cards that you have casted back into your hand, and I guarantee you're going to get 6 different mana costs from that. I have included cards like Narset Parter of Veils, which gives you some selection into your instants and sorceries and stops other people from drawing more than 1 card per turn. The Mirari Conjecture, which allows you to bring back instants and sorceries. Talrand and Murmuring Mystic, which give you creatures off of playing your instants and sorceries. So these are all just ways of being able to get the most off of the instant sorceries that you're casting to draw cards, because just drawing cards in and of itself isn't going to help you win. We really want to make sure that we're getting some more value off of that so that we can take on to the later game. So step 3 of the deck tech is hunkering down. And what I mean by hunkering down is this deck is going to win by Atemsis. It's fatefully clear as soon as you sit down on the table and you slap down Atemsis and everybody reads her, that is the way that you're going to win. Which means you might be a target for attacks first. I have found this in many games where I don't have a creature out. Normally the first person they'll swing at is me, just because I have something that possibly can win out of nowhere. So we really want to gain a defense and be able to stop people from killing you before you can enact your game plan. Cards like Murmuring Mystic and Talrand Sky Summoner are perfect for getting creatures out to block. You don't want to win with these cards. That's not the goal of this. It's just to get creatures out to block and stop people from swinging and bringing your life total down to a place where it's too scary to be at. Other cards that include in our hunker down is board wipes in blue. And these are specific type of board wipes because they're not board wipes, they're more just board clears. So cards like Devastation Tide, Whelming Wave, which bounces all creatures to their owner's hand except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. And I'll tell you, I've never played a game where I haven't bounced everything. So definitely play Whelming Wave. Evacuation, which is 3 blue for an instant, return all creatures to their owner's hands. Super nice, it's an instant. There's also one that I love in this deck, which is Engulf the Shore, which is 3 and a blue. Return to their owner's hands all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands you control. So these cards are basically just stopping creature-heavy decks from overpowering the board and winning before you can enact your game plan. In this, we've also got targeted removal, things like Rapid Dehydration and Pongify to be able to just hit key pieces that people are playing that might deter you, playing counter spells that are able to stop game-winning plays, or to enact your game-winning play. And that's where we're going to move on to the last part of Atemsis. This is how you're going to win the game. Now, this is very important because this whole game that you've been playing is to set up for Atemsis. You don't want to play Atemsis when you don't have the way to win when she comes out, which is why it's very important to include these pieces that are allowing you to be able to win when she comes out. So the first thing about Atemsis that I want to just be clear about is that Atemsis says that whenever she deals damage to an opponent, it does not say combat damage, and there's some funky weird ways that we can get around those. So cards like Sorcerer's Wand and Viridian Longbow, which essentially are the same thing, they are artifacts, and equipments that attach to your creature that allow it to tap to ping. And that satisfies the trigger for Atemsis. So you can play these cards, attach them to Atemsis, and then tap her to ping. So you never actually have to swing through. These are super important because even though maybe somebody doesn't have a flying, you normally can't take everybody out with just Atemsis. Some other really important things about Atemsis and the winning game plan is that you want to be able to win with her the turn that you come out. This is why I've included cards like Line of Anticipation, cards like Emergent Zone, which is the land that you can tap to give your spells flash until end of turn, to be able to save up your mana and when you are ready to flash Atemsis in and be able to win on your turn. Other cards that I've included are obviously things like Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves that you can play down and attach to Atemsis and be able to activate those abilities. The important thing to notice about Atemsis, and I'm sure this is on all of your minds, is that Atemsis can only kill one person at a time. And you would think that this is a big deterrent. However, if you are able to flash Atemsis out and you have her and you are able to attach the Viridian Longbow, you are now in charge of everybody's life, which is a powerful political tool and normally is a way to win. Now, of course, there are going to be as soon as Atemsis is out, people are going to play their board wipes and they're going to play their removals to getting around your Lightning Greaves and your Swiftfoot Boots, and that's why you're going to have to keep counter spells open for at least one turn of the table because that's all you need. The way to do this is the way the stack works is once you have Atemsis out and you're able to attach Viridian Longbow or Sorcerer's Wand or Psionic Gift, which is the enchantment version, you keep her open. You don't want to activate that ability to tap and win by revealing 6 converted mana costs among cards you control until your end step or until somebody is trying to win and you have no way of responding to that. So the way that I've played Atemsis is what Atemsis is out and I've attached the Swiftfoot Boots, or even without the Swiftfoot Boots, I just have counter spells in my hand. I wait. And what tends to happen is that it goes around the table and nobody wants to respond to Atemsis because as soon as somebody tries to cast a spell, in response you tap Atemsis and kill the opponent that is targeting you, and immediately that spell will fizzle. Now, your teammates can gang up on you. That's why it's very important to hold counter spells in your hand to be able to react to that. But if it goes around the table and nobody has reacted to Atemsis because they are too worried about you shooting them, then at that point on your opponent's end step before your turn, you are in control of the game. So you will tap on your end step to destroy one opponent. You untap with Atemsis, and at that point you can go around the table again, or you can kill one person and just hope it makes it back to you by holding up your counter spells. Now, there is another way of doing this. It can include untapped shenanigans. So if you wanted to include Vizier of the Tumbling Sands or Puppeteer to be able to untap Atemsis, that is totally fine. That can help you win that turn. However, I have found that even if you have Atemsis out without an untap ability, you have basically won the game as long as you have some counter spells and some reaction if somebody wants to board wipe. So that is Atemsis in a nutshell. Some other noteworthy cards I wanted to include that I have put in here are cards like Omniscience, simply because it is a 10 mana cost, so it's going to satisfy your requirements well, and also because being able to cast Omniscience if the gaze goes long, you will be able to just chain your draw spells until you are able to win. Another card I have included in here that is honestly your choice is Nezahal Primal Tide. I do love Nezahal for the ability of being able to draw you cards, and it also gives you a way of having no maximum hand size. Another card that I have included in here is Temporal Trespass. And I love Temporal Trespass in this deck because it is also a way to help you win on your turn. Temporal Trespass is 8 blue with Delve, and it allows you to take an extra turn after this one, and then you exile it. So it is an 11 mana casting cost that you will rarely ever cast for that. I have most often casted Temporal Trespass for 3 blue or 4 blue, and then you can take an extra turn, do your game-winning play, and then set yourself up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Atemsis deck tech. I know that was pretty quick. Have a lot of fun with this deck. There's plenty of ways to build Atemsis, lots of cards that you can include. This list that I have here that we will include on the YouTube video, link to the deck list, is at the time that I built it was under $150. So it's not an expensive deck. You can definitely budget it down to $100 or even $50 and still be really happy with the way this is playing. That is all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning into my Atemsis deck, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Peace out, guys.